Friendship with the Holy Spirit begins where fellowship is no longer optional. There comes a point in your walk with God where His presence is not just a comfort, becomes your necessity, the air you breathe, the place where your soul finds meaning. When that happens, you've stepped beyond religion, beyond routine, into the realm of holy friendship. And it doesn't start with a dramatic event. It starts with desire, a desire that says, I can't live another moment without Him. This desire births discipline, and discipline births fellowship. Not a checklist of prayers and verses, but a living, breathing communion. You begin to include Him in your silence, your tears, your laughter. You whisper to Him as you walk, as you sit, as you lie down at night. And the more you talk to Him, the more He begins to respond, subtly, gently, through peace that interrupts your fear, through nudges that redirect your path, through comfort that fills the loneliness only God could reach. In this friendship, time becomes a love offering. You don't make time for Him you long for it, you crave the secret place. You wake up early not to be religious, but because you miss Him. You cancel distractions not out of guilt, but because He is more precious. You begin to treasure the quiet hours when it's just you and the Holy Friend, because in those moments, your heart becomes more like His. And oh, how He responds. He doesn't come in loud or brash ways. He comes as the still small voice. He shows up in songs that stir your spirit, in verses that come alive, in moments when you realize He's been with you all along. The more you invite Him in, the more He takes over, but never by force. Always by love, always by grace. This friendship also redefines your relationships. You begin to lose taste for worldly talk and empty noise. You start craving purity grieves Him. You walk away from gossip not because it's wrong, but because it hurts the one you love. You begin to feel what He feels. Joy where He rejoices, grief where He is grieved. He becomes more than your helper. He becomes your heart's companion. There is a depth in God that only friends can access. Not servants, not visitors, friends. Those who walk with Him not because they want power or blessings, but because they love Him. And He reveals things to friends that He hides from the crowd. His whispers, His warnings, His desires. He shares them with those who care to sit with Him, not for what He gives, but for who He is. When fellowship becomes your oxygen, when His presence is no longer a weekend experience but a daily encounter, you are no longer trying to become His friend. You already are, because He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for proximity. A heart that says, Holy Spirit, I need you more than I need answers, more than I need results, more than I need anyone else. That's the heart He draws near to. That's the one He calls friend. Reverence unlocks the realm of intimacy because it positions your heart rightly before the one who is both friend and holy. The Holy Spirit is not casual. He is not ordinary. He is God. And though He draws near in gentleness, He is never to be approached flippantly. Reverence is not fear that pushes away. It is awe that draws close while bowing low. It is the quiet trembling of a soul who understands who stands in the room, even when the room is still. You cannot enter intimacy without reverence because the Spirit will not dwell where He is treated like a common guest. He comes where He is honored, where hearts prepare Him room, not in ritual, but in wonder. Reverence is not about external formality. It's not just kneeling or whispering. It's the inward posture that says, you are holy, you are worthy, you are Lord. It is the awareness that the one who hovered over the deep in Genesis now hovers over your heart, waiting to rest, not visit, but remain. Many seek closeness with God, but their hearts are still casual with His presence. They ask for encounters, but refuse to yield. They sing worship songs, but hold on to compromise. Intimacy cannot thrive where reverence is absent because intimacy with the Holy Spirit is a holy thing. He will never reveal His treasures to those who treat Him like a spiritual accessory. He longs to dwell, to share, to embrace, but He will never do it where there is no honor. Reverence means His whisper is more weighty than the world's applause. It means His conviction is more important than your comfort. It means you slow down when He enters the room. You shut off the noise. You stand still in worship not out of tradition, but because your soul is stilled by awe, and in that stillness He speaks. In that stillness He draws near, not to the mind, but to the heart. That's where the intimacy begins, not through volume, but through value, not through striving, but through surrender. Reverence also guards intimacy. You carry His presence with weight. You recognize that this is not just a feeling. It's the fire of God resting on you. You become a temple, not a tent. You become a host, not just a receiver. The secret place becomes sacred, not just familiar. You don't rush in and out. You linger because he is holy, and he lingers with you because he is a friend. Reverence teaches you how to wait without demanding, how to love without questioning, how to kneel without always needing to rise quickly. In reverence, your spiritual senses awaken. You hear differently. You respond differently. You become sensitive, tender, aware of his slightest nudge. And when the Holy Spirit sees that level of honor, he unveils more of himself. He begins to share his secrets, not just his power. He entrusts you with burdens, with intercession, with glimpses of eternity. You begin to hear the heartbeat of heaven. You stop asking only for blessings, and you start asking, "What do you want, Holy Spirit?" That question is born in reverence. It is the door into divine friendship. This intimacy is not for the distracted or the disinterested. It is for the reverent. Those who approach God not as equal, but as worshiper. Those who know the throne is not a place of entertainment, but of encounter. Those who don't just want a move of God, they want the God who moves. And when the Spirit finds such a heart, he comes. And when he comes, he stays not just beside you, but within you. Reverence brings him close, honor causes him to remain, and intimacy becomes not an event but a lifestyle. You can't be friends with the world and the Spirit because their desires move in opposite directions. One calls you to comfort, the other calls you to the cross. One feeds your pride, the other crucifies it. One says, "Take your life back," and the other says, "Lay your life down." The Holy Spirit will not compete for space in a heart that still flirts with what grieves him. Friendship with the world may earn you applause, but friendship with the Spirit costs you everything and gives you more than the world ever could. There's a holy line drawn in the Spirit, and the closer you get to him, the more clearly you see it. What once seemed harmless now feels heavy. What once felt fun now feels empty. The holy friend begins to whisper, "This isn't for you anymore." And if you love him, you listen. You let go, not out of obligation, but out of affection. Because friendship with the Spirit isn't built on rules. It's built on love, and love will always lead to surrender. The world sells performance, but the Spirit invites presence. The world says, "Approve your worth." The Spirit says, "Be still and know," but you cannot walk in both atmospheres at once. If you crave the crowd's approval, you'll silence the whisper of the Spirit. If you chase trends, you'll grieve the one who transcends time. The Holy Spirit doesn't follow culture. He convicts it. And when you become his friend, you'll feel the sting of separation. People won't understand you. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've gone too far, but they didn't die for you. He did. The Spirit and the world cannot share the same throne in your life. One must be bowed to, the other forsaken. And you choose daily, through your decisions, through your conversations, through what you pursue. The world offers shortcuts, fast influence, easy pleasure, cheap validation, but the Spirit calls you deeper, slower, purer, and he's not impressed with what impresses the world. He's moved by brokenness, not bravado, by humility, not hype. When you try to walk with both, your spirit becomes divided. You start excusing what once convicted you. You start resisting the very one who once refreshed you. The Holy Spirit will not stay where compromise is justified. He doesn't visit double-minded altars. He rests where he's Lord, not where he's one voice among many. Friendship with the Spirit demands clarity, a clean break from what competes for your affection. This isn't about legalism, it's about loyalty. The Holy Spirit is a person, not a force. He feels, he speaks, he yearns. And he is jealous for your love, not a toxic jealousy, but a holy one. Because he knows what the world will cost you. He knows its promises are empty, its applause is short-lived, its idols are cruel. But his presence is life, peace, fire. And he longs to lead you into all of it, but not while you're still holding hands with what he died to save you from. When you finally choose him fully, something shifts. The noise of the world begins to fade. The cravings lose their... The clarity of his voice becomes sweeter than the sound of popularity. You no longer care to fit in, you desire to be set apart. You stop asking, "How far can I go and still be okay?" and start asking, "How close can I come?" Holy Spirit, that is the heart of a friend, one who chooses the narrow way, one who counts the cost and still says yes, one who knows the world's lights dim in comparison to the fire that rests upon a surrendered life. You can't walk in step with heaven while dancing to the beat of the world. But when you choose him, really choose him, the separation becomes a sanctuary. You find joy not in what you've lost, but in the one you've gained. The holy friend shares secrets only with the yielded because intimacy requires trust, and trust is born in surrender. The Spirit of God is not withholding by nature, he is revealing, but he will not pour revelation into hearts that are still resisting his leadership. Yielding is not weakness, it is access. It is the gateway into the deep things of God, and only those who have laid down their right to understand will ever truly begin to receive understanding. There are dimensions in God that cannot be reached through intellect or effort. They are opened only through yieldedness. The yielded heart is soft, teachable, and ready. It doesn't argue with the Spirit, it aligns with him. It doesn't demand answers, it bows in trust. That's the kind of heart the holy friend looks for. Not the loudest voice, not the most gifted mouthpiece, but the one who says in quiet places, "Oh, whatever you say, I'll do. Wherever you lead, I'll go." Secrets are not for spectators, they're for companions. The Spirit doesn't shout his mysteries, he whispers them. And you can't hear whispers while standing at a distance. You must lean in. You must slow down. You must let go of control. Yieldedness is the ear that hears heaven. The more you surrender, the more you begin to notice the subtleties of his voice, the tug in your spirit, the weight in the room, the verse that won't let you go. And when you obey those moments, he shares more. He doesn't waste revelation. He doesn't scatter pearls in careless hands. He speaks to those who have proven they will steward what he says, even if it costs them comfort, clarity, or control. And that's why so few ever walk in the deeper fellowship of the Spirit. Not because he's silent, but because they are still unyielded, still negotiating, still picking and choosing what to obey. But you cannot bargain with the Spirit. You either yield or you don't. And it is only in that full surrender that he begins to trust you with what he carries. There are secrets in the Spirit that don't just inform, they transform. They don't entertain, they convict. They don't elevate, they humble. These are the kind of secrets the Spirit shares, insights into the heart of God, warnings for the days ahead, burdens for people you've never met, longings that mirror the intercession of Jesus himself. These are not given to the casual. They are entrusted to the crucified, to those who have laid down their reputation, their plans, and their pride. Yielding doesn't mean you always understand. It means you've decided to obey even when you don't. It's the posture that says, "Not my will, but yours be done." That is the place where secrets flow, where the Spirit opens the scriptures in ways you've never seen, where he shows you things in prayer that shift atmospheres, where he burdens you to weep for nations you've never visited. That's the fruit of intimacy. Not just fire, but weight. Not just emotion, but assignment. And when you begin to walk in that level of yieldedness, you realize his secrets are not always sensational. Sometimes they're simple. Call that person. Don't go there. Wait before you speak. And the more you respond, the more he trusts you. Because he knows your heart is not to be seen. It's to be sent, not to be elevated, but to be emptied. The holy friend longs to share what's on the heart of the Father, but he's looking for vessels that won't mix the message with their own motives. He's looking for friends, not followers, surrendered ones, silent ones, available ones, those who say, "Holy Spirit, nothing in me is off limits. You can have it all." And when he finds a heart like that, he does what he's always longed to do. He comes close, he reveals, he speaks, and he stays. The depth of your worship defines the depth of your friendship, because worship is not a song, it's a surrender. It's not measured by the volume of your voice, but by the posture of your heart. Friendship with the Holy Spirit doesn't begin on stages or in crowds. It's forged in the secret place, where your spirit bows lower than your words ever could. True worship is not performance, it's proximity. And the closer you get, the deeper he goes. Worship is the language of friendship. It is the way your soul says, "I love you more than anything else." It's how you make room, how you respond, how you honor him not just with lifted hands but with a laid-down life. The Holy Spirit is drawn to worship because worship is where he is most welcomed, not because he needs it, but because it reveals that you need him. And friendship thrives in that kind of atmosphere. Surface-level worship creates surface-level friendship. When your worship is routine, your connection becomes predictable. You talk to him when you need something. You sing when the lights are dim. You feel him once a week but forget him by Monday. But when worship becomes your lifestyle, when it becomes how you move, how you breathe, how you decide, then friendship with the Holy Spirit becomes more than a moment. It becomes your constant. Worship is what proves He is Lord in your life. Not your declarations, but your devotion. Not your emotion, but your obedience. You cannot say you're a friend of the Holy Spirit while still worshiping your schedule, your reputation, your comfort, or your will. Friendship requires exclusivity. You cannot share your altar with other affections and expect the Spirit to dwell fully. He is holy, and He reveals Himself to those who make Him first, not just in words but in priorities. The deepest worship doesn't happen when everything is perfect. It happens when your heart is breaking and you still say, "You are worthy." It happens when you don't feel Him and yet you draw near anyway. That kind of worship builds history. It tells the Holy Spirit, "I'm here for you, not just what you give." And that kind of worship moves Him. It draws Him near in a way that casual praise never will. Your friendship with the Holy Spirit deepens every time your worship deepens. When you stay longer in His presence, when you quiet your thoughts, when you give Him your undivided heart. And in that place, He begins to respond, not just with power, but intimacy. He begins to show you what grieves Him, what delights Him, what He longs for. You begin to feel His nearness not just during worship sets, but while driving, walking, and sitting in silence. He becomes your atmosphere. When worship becomes your instinct, not your obligation, the Holy Friend takes you into deeper waters. You stop chasing moments and you start building altars. You don't wait for the music to start. You live with a song inside you. A constant yes. A heart turned upward. A spirit always aware. And in that space, your friendship with Him grows because He feels safe with you. He knows you're not in this for the spotlight. He knows you're not after experiences. You're after Him. The Spirit doesn't share that level of closeness with everyone. He reveals Himself to worshipers. To those who value Him more than visibility. To those who lose themselves in awe, not in ambition. If you want deeper friendship with the Spirit, you must go deeper in worship. Not just in expression, but in exchange. Give Him your will, your wounds, your waiting, and let your worship become the invitation He cannot ignore. Because He always comes where He's adored, and He always stays where He's made Lord. Time is the currency of spiritual friendship because intimacy with the Holy Spirit is not microwaved, it's marinated. Doesn't grow in a rush or thrive in chaos. It blossoms in stillness and consistency in time given not out of duty but out of desire. The Holy Spirit is a person, not a principle, and just like any relationship, friendship with Him deepens when you make time to be with Him. Not just to ask, not just to receive, but to sit, to listen, to love. The measure of your friendship with the Spirit is not in how loud your prayers are, but in how much time you're willing to waste on Him. Not wasted in the eyes of heaven, but in the eyes of the world. Time that could have been spent building platforms, chasing dreams, or getting ahead. It is instead spent at His feet. That kind of time tells the Holy Spirit, "You are the most important person in my life." And He responds to that kind of prioritization with presence. Time reveals value. Whatever you consistently make time for is what you truly love. The Spirit sees not just your worship songs, but your calendar. He notices when you press past your tiredness, past your schedule, past your distractions, just to be with Him. And it's in those quiet, unrecorded moments that the deepest layers of spiritual friendship are formed. He begins to open His heart to you. Not because you earned it, but because you stayed long enough to receive it. When you rush in and rush out, you only ever touch the surface. You may feel goosebumps, you may hear a word, but depth demands duration. You can't know the heartbeat of God in a hurry. You can't carry the burdens of the Spirit when your mind is always racing. He waits for those who wait. He reveals Himself not to the busy, but to the abiding. To those who linger long enough for the noise to fade and the whisper to be heard. And as you give Him your time, He begins to shape how you spend the rest of it. You start prioritizing His presence above platforms. You start letting Him schedule your days. He becomes the one you consult before you commit, the one you check in with before you speak. Friendship with the Holy Spirit is not an event on your timeline, it becomes your timeline. He's in your mornings, he's in your meals, he's in your midnight tears. You no longer compartmentalize your time with him. You live with him, walk with him, think with him. Time spent with him becomes time shared in everything. This kind of relationship can't be fabricated. It's not a quick devotional and a motivational quote. It's cultivated through daily choosing him, through the awkward silences that eventually become holy stillness, through the early mornings when sleep calls louder than prayer, yet you show up anyway, through the nights when you stay awake just to be near him, not because you want something, but because he is your something. And the beautiful truth is this: the more time you give him, the more of yourself you find in him. He begins to reshape how you see everything. Decisions become clearer, burdens become lighter, joy becomes deeper. Why? Because friendship with the Holy Spirit makes time sacred. Every minute with him is investment, not expense, and he never lets a second of surrendered time return empty. If you want to walk closely with the Spirit, if you want to hear his secrets, carry his burdens, and move with his wind, you must give him time, unhurried, undivided, unashamed. Not when it's convenient, but because he is worthy, because you love him, because no other moment matters more than the one you spend with him. And in that place, in the currency of time laid down, the treasure of divine friendship is given.